Hello, this is Madeline.
And Sonara.
And due to fog in the Solent, which delayed delivery of this Friday's County Press, this week's Talking News will be shorter than usual, for which we apologise. So starting with the Society News for Friday the 22nd of February. On Tuesday the 26th of February, the swimming group are swimming at the waterside pool in Ryde. The pool is closed to the public whilst the group swims. There are male and female volunteers to help you get in and out of the pool, as well as lifeguards to ensure your safety. To join the swimming group, please call the site for Wight first to notify us of your swimming ability. You need to register with the office at Millbrook House first to be able to swim with the group. On Wednesday, the 27th of February, the weekly coffee morning will be held at Millbrook House from 10:30 a.m. There will also be our low vision drop-in between 10 a.m. and 12 noon, a weekly event to allow you to view and try the low vision equipment we have at the Society without the need for an appointment. On Thursday, the 28th of February, the social group are meeting at Millbrook House. The group meets from 10:30 a.m. until 2 p.m. You can knit or just have a chat, and then later in the afternoon, volunteers come in and read to the group from different topics.
Site for Wight activities. Dress for Less. Due to unforeseen circumstances, Dress for Less will be closed this Saturday, 23rd of February. We apologise for any inconvenience. The annual general meeting. Members and volunteers are invited to the Site for Wight annual general meeting, which will be held on Tuesday the 26th of February at Millbrook House. Join us for refreshments from 9:30 a.m. in the activities suite, where we will be promoting new events, activities and opportunities, as well as displaying various items of low vision equipment. The formal AGM will take place in the meeting room starting at 10:30 a.m. Please send an email to members@iwsb.org.uk or telephone 522 205 us to advise that you will be attending so that we know how many we are catering for. We look forward to welcoming you. On the Wednesday social group, our favourite zookeeper, Gary Harbour, will be returning to Millbrook House along with a few friends for the Wednesday social group on Wednesday 6th of March at 2 p.m. If you would like to come along and listen to Gary's talk, then please let Laura know on 522 205. Admission is just £3 and includes tea or coffee and cake. The talk lasts approximately 1 hour. For more information, visit our website www.iwsb.org.uk. Any members who sing or have sung in a choir are invited to join us at Millbrook House on Thursday the 14th of March from 10 a.m. till 11 a.m. to talk with Irene, a mature occupational therapy student at the University of Southampton. She is working on a project to design a gadget or assistive technology that will enable people with visual impairment to participate in a choir. She is hoping to speak with visually impaired members to gain a better understanding about how sight loss affects engagement on a daily basis and what current available assistive technology and support network is available. If you would like to join us, then please call Laura Jasper on 522 205 or email members@iwsb.org.uk. Unfortunately, we are unable to provide transport for this.
Any other news? The sight loss event organised by Laura Gouljar on March the 23rd will now be held at the Riverside Centre to enable better access. The Freshwater Audio Book Group will not be meeting this month at Freshwater Library. Ryde Library have an audio book group for the visually impaired. They meet at Ryde Library on the second Friday of each month. Please contact Ryde Library, telephone number 823 825 for further details. A group of visually impaired people meet on the third Saturday of each month at Yelf's Hotel in Ryde at 10:30 a.m. They usually have a speaker and you can buy coffee and cakes from the bar. They invite anyone with a visual impairment or an interest in visual impairment to join them. This week's In Touch. Gene therapy aims to halt AMD. Peter Wight talks to Kathy Yelf, the Chief Executive of the Macular Society, about the first treatment to target the underlying genetic cause of age-related macular degeneration, or AMD. We feature feedback from last week's programme in which we heard from Emily Brothers, whose guide dog was attacked by another dog. Guide dog owner Sandra Druel has had a similar experience. And Peter talks to Charmian Zvek about her experience of caring for her mother who was losing her sight. Charmian tells us how her mother's sight loss affected their relationship. The presenter is Peter Wight and the producer Lee Kumatat and Tom Walker.
And on to the County Press news. The Isle of Wight should be made an exceptional case and its housing target slashed, MP Bob Seeley said this week. Campaigners have criticised the government-imposed housing target, calling for 641 homes to be built between 2020 and 2035, a total of 9,615 houses. The CPRE last week said the homes would not be built for islanders, but for retirees and second homeowners seeking to move here. The group warned that almost 10,000 homes would create an urban sprawl that would devastate the island's countryside. Mr. Seeley said that the Isle of Wight should have special status and its housing target slashed to between 200 and 300 homes a year. He has asked Isle of Wight Council leader, Councillor Dave Stewart, to join him in making the case to government and apply for exceptional circumstances designation. In a letter to Councillor Stewart, the MP said the island lacked the infrastructure to support almost 10,000 new homes. I would love to know how communities can keep their sense of identity given the level of house building, he said. Most developments are not designed for local people, but for the broader southeast housing markets. We build 3 and 4 bed houses when demand from islanders is for 1 and 2 bedroom properties. The idea of building 7,000 homes on greenfield sites has zero public support, and there is no chance I will be supporting it either. Councillor Stewart told the County Press he would, in principle, join Mr. Seeley in applying for exceptional circumstances, providing the MP could convince him the current target was too high. That's a conversation we need to have. The 641 target is set by the government. I'm not sure if it is too high, he said. The fact is we have a very high need for housing, particularly for people we would describe as homeless. There are more than 2,000 households on the housing register. We've got families in 1-bedroom hotel rooms when they should be in houses of their own. The proposal to build almost 10,000 homes has been included in the island plan, a strategy drawn up by the council and currently out to consultation. The deadline for comments, which can be made on the council's website, is Monday, February the 25th. Several Isle of Wight councillors have raised concerns about the housing target. Newport councillor Matthew Price described plans for an 880 home development in his ward as pure madness, while Ryde councillor Michael Lilly has urged all residents to object to the island plan. For more on the council's housing plans, see Councillor Stewart's column in today's County Press.
Merston Station is set for a marvellous makeover. The gift to nature will be transformed, all thanks to grant funding from the National Lottery Community Fund and the support of National Lottery players. The team at Natural Enterprise are delighted their bid to improve the site and encourage more people to use this space, as well as understand its heritage and future, has been given the green light. Situated along the National Cycle Network, Merston Station was closed to passengers in 1956. It has since been used as a cycle path, and the station is an idyllic picnic spot. Gift to Nature resumed managing the site in 2016 and, after consultation with the community, are now in a position to start the work to create a more open and inviting space, along with some highly requested shelter and hand-carved benches. Local wood carvers and heritage experts will all be involved as they work to bring the site back to life as a key destination along the route.
It's the news fast food fans have been waiting for. Burger King is coming to the Isle of Wight. The County Press can exclusively reveal the burger restaurant is looking to open a drive-through at the former Staples store at Coppins Bridge, Newport, next to Cineworld. Plans, seen by the County Press, have been drawn up, and the company is expected to apply for planning permission shortly. It's believed the remodelled site will also include a 24-hour gym. There is already a KFC drive-through restaurant at the site.
County Press deliveries have been delayed this morning following ferry cancellations due to heavy fog. Copies are due to arrive on the Isle of Wight shortly on the 9 a.m. Red Funnel car ferry sailing from Southampton. County Press Head of Sales Simone Rose said, "We would like to apologise to all our readers for the delay in deliveries this morning. Make sure you pick up your copy of the paper later this morning, as well as our great news coverage, features, jobs and property pages. This week's paper includes a trader directory with listings of Isle of Wight businesses. Today's paper includes tributes to loved and beautiful 16-year-old Emily Peach following her sudden death, and an exclusive story on MP Bob Seeley's calls for the Isle of Wight's housing target to be slashed. We have the latest news on 5 weeks of late-night ferry cancellations due to roadworks at Fishbourne, the council's plans to close a freshwater primary school, and islanders campaigning against Brexit, plus court reports, community and sports news."
Newport Cineworld has shut its doors and cancelled all film showings this evening, Thursday. The company posted on Facebook, "Due to unforeseen circumstances, we will be closing the building for the rest of this evening." And on an update, the County Press understands the building had to be closed that evening due to sewage problems, possibly a leak.
The sudden death of 16-year-old Emily Rose Peach has left a Newport family utterly heartbroken. Emily died unexpectedly last Friday, February the 15th. The cause of death is not yet known. Emily was a Carisbrooke College student and lived in Newport. She leaves behind parents Sarah and Graham and 5 sisters, Carrie, Elysia, Danielle, Jamie and Casey May. A GoFundMe page to help pay for Emily's funeral has raised £4,500 in just a few days. The family said, "We are extremely overwhelmed by the kindness and generosity that has been shown and still continues. That in itself tells you just how popular and well loved Emily was. Our beautiful Em was taken from us suddenly and far too soon. At only 16, she had her whole life ahead of her and had so much to live for. She leaves behind her loving mother, father and sisters, a heartbroken family and so many friends who loved her so much. This tragedy is one of the most unexpected things which could have happened. There was no way anybody could have seen it coming, and as such, the family is now under a lot of stress and worry to pull together a funeral whilst also grieving for our beloved Emily. All we want to do is to give her the send-off that she wholly deserves, and a chance for anybody and everybody who held her in their heart to come and say their goodbyes. As such, any donation which can be made in aid of this cause would be greatly appreciated. The funeral details are to be confirmed. Floral tributes have been left in the Sylvan Drive area of Newport in memory of Emily."
More landslips in West Wight have closed a cliff-top footpath on Thursday afternoon. The footpath, which runs along the cliff between Grange Farm and Isle of Wight Pearl, is no longer safe for use. Landslips that have occurred behind the Bryston Holiday Centre means that the public footpath, BS 59, has been closed, and to bypass this point, walkers will need to use Military Road's roadside verge.
A new Daisy bus to help Isle of Wight cancer patients attend mainland hospital appointments has been unveiled by the Wessex Cancer Trust. The charity secured grant funding and donations from generous islanders to continue providing the service, following fears it would be axed due to funding cuts. Thanking all those who had supported the fundraising effort, Chair of Trustees Barry Rinaldi said, "It will be kept busy and make 10,000 trips for us. We are so proud the island has helped us to do this." Mandy Beecher, whose husband Tom survived throat cancer and was a regular bus user, attended yesterday's launch. That was on Wednesday. She has made 30 survival bags for passengers, which include woolen hats, blankets, puzzles, and other items to help them during the journey. The bus is an integral part of the treatment and was a real lifesaver for Tom, she said.
A bus driver who saved a customer's life by performing CPR has been named Employee of the Year by Southern Vectis. Bus driver Ali Vagliani retreated to Island Life after transferring from Southern Vectis' sister company, Go Ahead London. It was not long before he became a great asset to the team, praised for his enthusiasm and superb customer service skills. He was presented with his award by Managing Director Andrew Wickham at the company's annual ceremony. Mr. Wickham said, "We regularly receive compliments for Ali, telling us he consistently goes the extra mile. One specific example of this is when a customer collapsed while travelling on his bus. It transpired this gentleman was suffering a heart attack, and Ali made the brave decision to perform CPR while awaiting paramedics. Later, we learned that our passenger may well not have survived were it not for Ali's heroic actions. Getting customers to their destinations on time is a challenge, but saving one's life is extraordinary. This award is richly deserved. I would like to thank Ali for a great year and wish him a very successful 2019. In recognition of his efforts, Ali received £500 worth of vouchers and a framed certificate.
Another black mark against the already unpopular Sandown Town Council came when mourners were denied parking at the Broadway Centre for a planned scooter ride out for a funeral. The Broadway Centre car park, which is large and often empty, is next door to Christchurch, where the funeral for Malcolm Butcher, a well-known Sandown man and scooter enthusiast, will take place on Wednesday at 2 p.m. Friends of Mr. Butcher asked the Town Council, which manages the Broadway Centre, if the funeral cars and a convoy of scooters could use the car park for an hour while the funeral takes place. The request was denied. The Town Council said the car park would be jam-packed on that day. Jane Midmore, close friend of Mr. Butcher, said, "Sandown residents are in uproar, as Butch was a Sandonian, always on the high street with his dog, Guinness, and he was loved by all. It's very upsetting that his funeral has been regarded in this way by Sandown Town Council. The scooter convoy is planned as a mark of respect and affection for Malcolm, and the town are speechless at this lack of compassion from the council." Close friend of Mr. Butcher and fellow member of the Sandown and District Scooter Club, Keith Carroll, said, "Malcolm was a true Sandonian, born and bred. He loved Sandown and he was a real character around the town."
A warning has been issued about a scam letter telling people that they have won thousands of pounds. Trading Standards officials said the letter, purportedly from the People's Postcode Lottery, looked very official. It asks people to pay a processing fee to collect their prize, a big indicator that the letter is a scam. Isle of Wight Fair Trading Officer Sally Ash said, "There are 2 rules to remember. If you haven't bought a ticket, you can't win, and you should never have to send money to receive your winnings. If you're unsure, find your own contact details for the postcode lottery, not those given on the letter, and contact them yourself."
Isle of Wight volunteers gathered to pay tribute to the county's outgoing Lord Lieutenant, Major General Sir Martin Wight. On Friday, February the 15th, the voluntary sector thanked the Lord Lieutenant and Lady Fiona Wight for their service to the island during the last 12 years at a party at the Riverside Centre, Newport, hosted by Richard Priest. Several speakers from organisations and charities the Lord Lieutenant and Lady Wight have worked with over the years, many of which have been awarded the Queen's Award for Voluntary Service, shared their experiences and thanked them for their support. Standard bearers from the Royal British Legion and cadets from the island's Army Cadet Force also took part in the evening, along with Lord Lieutenant cadets past and present who expressed their gratitude. Personal tributes were also made from officers the Lord Lieutenant had served within the armed forces. A letter of good wishes on his retirement at the end of March was presented to the Lord Lieutenant from Sir John Major, Prime Minister during the First Gulf War in 1990-91, when Sir Martin commanded the UK's logistic operation in Kuwait and Saudi Arabia. Memories were also shared from Sir Martin's time as a schoolboy at Sandown Grammar School. Shanklin Town Brass Band provided the music, and a fabulous cake was presented by the Women's Institute, among the other gifts. And that's all we have time for, so it's goodbye from Madeline.
And goodbye from Sinara.
Good morning, this is Den with continuing the abridged version of the County Press. Letters. I'd like to say a really big thank you, Todd and Jackie Carder, from Chapel Furlong Farm, Halverston, who ventured out aboard their tractor to rescue myself and a friend from the treacherous middle road when the snow fell. Having already encountered a falling tree on Wilmingham Lane, we were then faced with the sight of the middle road near Tapnell Barns, strewn with stuck or abandoned vehicles, as drivers had failed to get up the hill. I'm not sure if the road had been gritted at all, but the conditions on the road were a complete nightmare. Having safely parked the car off the carriageway, we walked up the hill to meet our saviours. We were taken home by Adam Brodie while Todd and Jackie continued to help other drivers. What stars! We feel very fortunate to live in the village with such caring neighbours. This is from Councillor R. Packham, East Cowes. I read with interest the letter from Mrs. Wardrup, County Press, on the 8th of the 2nd, 19, and this was my question to the informal Isle of Wight Council Cabinet. Why did the Isle of Wight Council borrow 19 million from the government and spend the money in Manchester and Kent? This money should have been spent on the island. My supplementary question to the Deputy Leader was, what guarantee have you got the Isle of Wight Council will make a profit? I am very concerned with his answer, as he said the Isle of Wight Council would expect to earn 3 to 4 million net per year after repayment, if it were able to invest the full 100 million as planned. The real problem is the Isle of Wight does not receive enough money from the government. The government is now spending millions of pounds on a no-deal Brexit, which could have been spent on the NHS, schools and social security. I feel very sorry for Neil Hilson, who has such angry-sounding neighbours. Garden-grabbing row, County Press, 1st of the 2nd, 19. All he wanted was a bit more garden. All he wanted was a bit more garden, so, quite reasonably, he fenced off some of the land next door. No one seemed to notice, but now he wants to build there. Everyone is getting wound up. I think we should follow his example. Those of us living next to public open spaces or nature reserves will have it easy. If anyone asks, just say you'd like a bit more land to grow vegetables, then wait a few years and put in a planning application. By that time, with adverse possession, the land will be legally yours anyway, so no problem. We all know more houses are needed. With luck, Bats Copse could become a select residential area of executive homes or a desirable mews, and I'm sure we can find ways of fencing off Big Mead too. Since enterprising Mr. Hilson has set an example, all we have to do is claim a precedent and we're home and dry. And if you're worried about a loss of wildlife habitation and green space, just salve your conscience by building the odd affordable home. After all, it's making money that really counts, isn't it? Following the recent spell of heavy snow, our 18-year-old daughter Leanne might have been stranded on the mainland if it were not for the exceptional kindness of a member of the White Link cleaning staff at Lymington. Leanne was on her way home from Plymouth University and was waiting at Lymington for the 9:05 p.m. ferry. Unfortunately, due to the severe weather conditions, it was cancelled, and as there were no other sailings, she might have been stranded with no hotels nearby or transport to take her from the terminal. Staff suggested she catch the Fast Cat service from Portsmouth, but there were no taxis available. On hearing of her predicament, a White Link cleaning staff member called Faye, we do not know her surname, who lived in Portsmouth, offered to take Leanne to the ferry terminal. Faye managed to drive safely to Portsmouth and stayed with Leanne to ensure she could catch the Fast Cat. She also kept us informed regularly by phoning us on her mobile to reassure us Leanne would not be left on her own. Unfortunately, the Fast Cat service was also cancelled due to the weather, which meant the only service available was the midnight car ferry. Only when it was confirmed this service would be running did Faye leave Leanne in the care of Wight staff at Portsmouth, and also arranged to charge her mobile phone so she could keep in touch with her mum and dad. Fortunately, we were able to drive with great difficulty on slippery snow-covered roads to Fishbourne and awaited her arrival at 12:40 a.m. We feel Kay was absolutely brilliant, and she deserves not just recognition from us as worried parents, but also from Wight for going out of her way to help our daughter. We have contacted Chief Executive Keith Greenfield about this extraordinary lady and how she went way beyond the call of duty to help Leanne, and we will be sending our thanks to her personally. As far as we are concerned, Faye is the angel of Wight. Entertainment. Tickets for the Isle of Wight Jazz Festival, featuring Echoes of Ellington, Ian Shaw, Sax Appeal and many more, are now available to buy. Featuring leading names from the UK's jazz scene, the festival will be held at Newport venues including the Apollo and Medina Theatres, Key Arts, the Bargeman's Rest and Newport Methodist Church between Wednesday, May the 29th and Sunday, June the 2nd. Tickets are available from the Isle of Wight County Press at Pyle Street and Medina Theatre. Acclaimed American a cappella group Naturally Seven are set to perform at Newport's Medina Theatre. The New York-based group are coming to the Isle of Wight as part of a 20-date tour across the UK and Ireland. Famed for their unique vocal play technique, which uses voices to mimic instruments and instrumental lines, the group's videos have garnered millions of views. They will be performing at Medina Theatre on Wednesday, February the 27th of February. Alongside releasing seven studio albums over the course of a 20-year career, the group have embarked on 3 world tours with Michael Bublé performing with the likes of the Jacksons, Coldplay and Mick Hucknall, and have played at major jazz festivals around the globe, including the Montreux Jazz Festival, New Orleans Jazz Festival and the Nice Jazz Festival. Naturally Seven also appeared on Quincy Jones's latest studio album, Q Soul Bossa Nostra, in a duet with American rapper Ludacris. Quincy Jones, the 27-time Grammy-winning musician, producer, arranger and composer, claimed that Naturally Seven are the best a cappella group in the world.
This is the BBC.
This is In Touch, the magazine programme for people like me who are blind or partially sighted. I'm Peter White. Thanks for downloading this week's edition. Good evening. Tonight, controlling the biggest cause of blindness in the Western world. It's a large aim. We discuss the significance of a groundbreaking operation for current and future patients, and how the loss of vision for one member of a long-standing relationship can affect the other one.
She couldn't see me. She couldn't see me ageing. I wanted her to be able to see my wrinkles,
Really?
my greying hair. I got a new haircut. She couldn't see it.
Charmian Kvek, who will be talking later about how her mother's loss of sight affected her. But first, a medical team in Oxford has just taken the latest step in the attempt to halt a form of eye disease using gene therapy. AMD, or age-related macular degeneration, affects around 600,000 people in the UK when you include those who have not registered as visually impaired. Janet Osborne, who's part of a trial to test the safety of the operation, had a synthetic gene injected into the back of her eye to prevent more cells from dying. She already has blurred central vision. Part of the process was filmed by BBC News as the leader of the team of surgeons, Professor Robert McLaren, tested Janet's current vision.
Can you see the letters on this line, the next one down?
No, it's become a blur. But I can see your glasses and your ears.
Can you see the colour of my eyes?
No.
approximately 350,000 people in the UK are severely sight impaired by age-related macular degeneration. A genetic treatment administered early on to preserve the vision in patients who would otherwise lose their sight would be a tremendous breakthrough in ophthalmology, and certainly something I hope to see in the near future.
Professor McLaren admits there can be no certainty yet that the loss of Janet's vision will be halted, but the ultimate aim of this procedure will be to inject the gene into the eyes of people at risk before their sight has deteriorated. But inevitably, such publicity raises a mass of questions in the minds of people who already have the condition. Cathy Yelf is CEO of the Macular Society, which supports people with the condition. I asked her what she thought was the significance of this latest procedure.
Well, I think the excitement that this procedure causes, this particular trial arouses, is that it is the first gene therapy trial in dry AMD. And the reason that that is important is that there is no current therapy at all for dry AMD. And so it is the great hope of probably the majority of people with age-related macular degeneration. The hope is to find a first therapy for dry AMD.
So just remind us of the current forms of treatment that are actually available to people who have AMD, perhaps particularly wet AMD, which can be treated.
Yes, wet AMD is the only form of age-related macular degeneration for which there is a treatment, and it's given as an injection into the eyeball to get the drug to the back of the eye, and the drug slows down the development of abnormal blood vessels that grow and leak in wet AMD. And so in most people who have the treatment, not everybody, but most people, it will significantly slow down the progress of the disease. But it doesn't work for everybody, and it doesn't work forever. And so longer-term therapies are needed, and ones which are less burdensome, really, because these injections have to be given very frequently. And there is no treatment at all for dry AMD.
Now, clearly, however level-headed people try to be about this, the question it's bound to raise for them when they hear this kind of publicity is, will this restore any of my sight, or at the very least, will it prevent my AMD from getting worse? What do you say to people who come to you with those kind of questions?
It's very hard because people are desperate to regain or prevent the loss of their sight. So it is very difficult with early stage trials, and as you say, this is a safety trial at this stage to make sure that the treatment doesn't do any harm to patients. So at very early stage in medical research, it's quite difficult for people to keep their feet on the ground. Hope is a very important part of people's lives, and we do hope very much that this will prove to be an effective therapy, but it is at a very early stage. The other thing is that it is designed, I think, not to restore sight, but to prevent sight from deteriorating. And the other important thing is that this particular gene that is being targeted with the gene therapy, so the gene that is defective in this particular case, affects only about 5% of people with age-related macular degeneration. We know that AMD is a very complex disease. It involves many genes are associated with AMD, as well as lifestyle factors. So it is not a single gene that causes this disease, and in fact it may not even be a single disease. So this particular gene, the CF1 gene that's being targeted in this trial, affects we think about 5% of people with macular degeneration. But it's a very important proof of concept here, and if we can do it with this gene, then we might be able to do it with all the others as well.
So, of course, when this kind of thing hits and when you get this kind of publicity, I just wonder what happens in your offices when this happens.
Well, people phone us, of course, for more information. So I just spoke to the manager of our advice and information service today, and he said 75% of the calls that our helpline has taken this morning have been about this therapy. So that's the sort of impact it has. People clearly want to know more about it and whether it's something that might be able to help them.
And I guess our role has always been to try and put these things into perspective. And I guess even when the treatment does become more available, won't there be the issues of cost, of beds, of staffing, with 600,000 potential patients and all the ones that they want to help before they start to lose their sight. This is a heck of a challenge, isn't it?
It is. There are many steps along the way to get a brilliant idea and even a proven concept through to actually a drug that we can deliver in the clinic. It has to be commercially viable, it has to be affordable, it has to be deliverable. There has to be a way of actually getting it into the patient's eye or the bit of the patient that it needs to get into.
Cathy Yelf, CEO of the Macular Society, and we'd like your reactions, please. We've already had a number of your reactions to our item about the rising number of attacks on guide dogs and one woman's disappointment at the level of support she received afterwards. Here's an example of what we've heard.
I'm Sandra Droll. I too am a guide dog owner, and my previous guide dog, he was attacked in December 2015. Obviously, I contacted guide dogs and told them what had happened. Someone did phone up and do an accident report form, but that was the only contact I had from them. They never came out to make sure the dog was working well, was not scared of other dogs or anything.
And it's good to see that some of you are already using our new voicemail system, which allows people to leave messages for us with your views. And it's good to hear the real voices of the people who listen to us. Michael, for instance, who said he'd been a guide dog owner for almost 60 years, was now on his 7th dog and had always had excellent service from the association. And Angie Fairclough with the interesting idea of some kind of pendant system, such as those used by older people, so that guide dog owners could call for advice or assistance if they needed it. The number to call us, 0161 836 1338, and we'll be giving you that number again at the end of the programme. We've had another statement from the Guide Dogs Association. They tell us on average we supported 12 guide dog owners every month through what can be a very difficult time. We've also designed a special workshop for guide dog owners which focuses on helping them manage situations around other dogs. This is often attended by people who have experienced a dog attack as a means to support them during their recovery. Now, Charmian Kvek's mother was just one of those people we've just been talking about, people who developed AMD, or age-related macular disease, in her case in her 80s. But what effect does someone's gradual loss of sight have on the person they live with? Her daughter, Charmian, emailed us to suggest that this was something she hadn't heard tackled on In Touch. And I certainly couldn't remember many examples where we had made this the focus of a report. So we invited her into the studio to explain what she meant. It was a thought-provoking conversation, and Charmian began by telling me a little about her mother.
We'd always been together. She was a teacher. She was very artistic. She loved painting and she loved gardening. She was my best friend. She'd had cataracts in her 60s, and that was the first sort of time that I encountered visual problems with her. I remember even friends and relatives who knew there was a problem. You know, they'd still, you'd visit them and they'd give you photo albums to go through. And there'd be me thinking, very protective, thinking, you can't see them, for heaven's sake, Now,
clearly a relative's loss of sight is distressing because it's distressing for them, which is why it's partly distressing for you. But you really seem to be describing something more than that, the loss of visual reference points, I think.
Yes, my mother had a cataract operation, had a new lease of life, but then in her 80s, macular degeneration kicked in, and it was a gradual process. So you start off where you find your life is being put in aspic a bit, because you can't come in, kick off your shoes, leave them there to be fallen over. You can't just leave your handbag anywhere. You can't change the furniture around. You can't change anything, really. If something breaks down, my mother was still cooking at this point. We needed a new cooker. We had to get one as much like the previous one as possible.
And presumably there's also a bit of a tendency to overprotect, maybe?
I'm sure there was on my part, absolutely. Very, very difficult to come to terms with when it's somebody that you love so very much and you're finding the visual world is starting to retreat for them.
And that was, in a way, what you emailed us about, which seemed to be the biggest thing, things you couldn't share.
Yes, my own loss was profound, the things I could not share with her. We loved going round art galleries, but now I couldn't even show her pictures of paintings in books. Obviously, we couldn't watch television together. You know, at one point we'd used audio description, but even that, it just got... She couldn't see me. She couldn't see me ageing. I wanted her to be able to see my wrinkles,
Really?
you know, my greying hair. I got a new haircut. She couldn't see it. You know, I'd get her to run her hand over it, but she didn't know what I looked like in my clothes, if I bought anything for her. She couldn't see it. I'd be describing, oh, well, your new nightie, it's got these little, you know, rosebuds on it. And I would never buy her anything that she wouldn't have liked, you know, even though she couldn't see them. It was quite devastating. You don't realise how much somebody else's perception of you and the things you share brings to your own life, and that you need that validation.
And you went on holidays, I think, after she lost her sight, and that created problems too?
It was difficult, yes.
Because?
Well, she couldn't do anything without, you know, holding my arm, you know. We you know, I had to tell her absolutely every step. There's another step here, put her hand on a banister. She couldn't see the sights that we'd shared. You know, she could still smell the sea and feel the sun on her. But
I was going to ask you about that because, I mean, one of the things this programme always tries to be about are some of the positives, and we try to make the point of how much there is left in life. I just wonder if you found any compensations or things that you did that you might not have thought of doing.
One of the best things I ever did was getting a little dictaphone so that when I read a book to my mother, I would actually record it at the same time. And then later on, she could replay it. She didn't mind hearing things again. And it was my voice, the comfort of my voice.
There was an added problem because you feel that though it wasn't diagnosed, your mum had begun to suffer from some elements of dementia before.
People who didn't know her who would come to see would say, oh, isn't it wonderful? You know, she's still got all her marbles. And I'd be thinking, oh, well, you didn't have a conversation with her last night. You know, she would forget that people had died and keep going over the same things. And
people know, perhaps now, some of the things that can be done to help as far as that is concerned, triggers and things like that. But I think the loss of vision, that got in the way of some of the triggers that people advised you to use.
That's right. I couldn't write her notes to remind her of things. I couldn't show her old photographs, you know, family photographs, whatever, places that we'd been. Those memory triggers, that they weren't available.
And again, the kind of things that people advise you to use, technology and some of the things that are available now, any good in this instance?
Definitely the radio. That was a great blessing to her. I do think there's a need perhaps for some more cheerful radio. Radio 4 can tend to be rather depressing.
We'll see if they allow us to put that out. We'll see if it survives the edit.
Yes, indeed.
I'm going to ask you a potentially difficult question, so forgive me, but I wonder how well did your mother and your relationship survive this experience?
Very well, yes. We loved each other deeply, and it was a strain, but that's one of the things. You become a carer, and I don't really like that label to a certain extent. I was a daughter. One thing that few people seem to be aware of as well is the possibility of old people seeing hallucinations because they're losing their sight. It isn't necessarily down to dementia or anything. I believe it's called Charles Bonnet syndrome.
It is, and we've talked about it on the
I'm sure,
programme. Did your mother suffer from
She
this?
did, yes. Earlier on in the process of her losing her sight. She was plagued by a boy with ginger hair at one point. We don't know where he popped up from. But if I hadn't been able to reassure her, if I hadn't known about it, she would have been afraid. She would have thought she was seeing a ghost.
Just finally, I think you believe also that there were health implications of the loss of sight,
Yes.
not necessarily related to the loss of vision, but other associated things.
Well, it was the loss of vision that stopped my mother going out, then stopped her moving around even in her own house. And if you don't keep moving, you lose the ability to move. And she did end up bedridden, although there was, nothing physically wrong with her.
I just wonder what you would say to people listening to this, because you've highlighted the things that were a problem.
Well, I suppose it is keep talking, keep responding, don't withdraw. It is a very visual world we live in. I think it's becoming even more so with phones. Everybody's looking at them all the time.
So perhaps keeping talking is the key.
I think so. I wish I could offer some more insights, but I think that perhaps, my mother's age and everything else, there wasn't a lot I could offer except for my love and patience and continuing communication.
Charmian Kvek, we'd like to hear your reactions to that, and perhaps particularly positive suggestions of how the loss of visual stimuli could be overcome or maybe replaced with something else. And that's it for today, but as I promised, we can tell you about a change in the way that you can contact the programme to make your comments or give your views. You can now call 0161 836 1338, and when you do call this number, calls are charged at the standard geographic rate, although calls from mobiles may cost more. You can leave us a message there, we'll get back to you. Or, as usual, you can do lots of the other things we suggest. You can email in touch at bbc.co.uk or visit our website www.bbc.co.uk/in touch, from where you can also download tonight's programme and previous editions. That's it. From me, Peter Wight, producer Tom Walker and the team, goodbye.
And here is the scaffolding news for Friday the 22nd of February 2019. In the Ryde area, there are current scaffolds at Gardener's Cottage, Upper Green Road, St Helens, the King Lud to Esplanade Ryde, 91 to 92 High Street Ryde, Coburg's Nightclub, Union Street Ryde, Headshot, 9 Cross Street Ryde, and 21 The Strand Ryde. There are current skips at Carita, Stane Road, Seaview, and building materials and hoarding at the car park in Brooks Road, Bembridge. Now the Cowes area. There are current scaffolds at 93 High Street, Cowes, scaffold up within the hoarding, the White Hart Inn, Dover Road, East Cowes, Pierview Hotel, Terminus Road, Cowes. There are current hoardings at 93 High Street, Cowes, pending skips at 19 Mill Hill Road, Cowes, and 7 Magdalen Crescent, Cowes. Now the Newport area. There are current scaffolds at the Wheatsheaf Hotel in St Thomas's Square, Newport, Claire's Accessories, 41 High Street, Newport, and Barnett's, 73 High Street, Newport. Now the Sandown and Shanklin area. There are current scaffolds up at the Toymaster, 103 High Street, Sandown, Wilmer Dorkin and Vermaper Cottages, Church Street, Newchurch, Brian Cook Furnishers, 77 High Street, Shanklin, Trouville Hotel, 10 to 16 Esplanade, Sandown, the Ocean Hotel, Townhouses, High Street, Sandown, Co-op Food Store, 63 to 67 High Street, Sandown, and Serenity, 83A High Street, Sandown. There are pending scaffolds at Bar 64 at 64 High Street, Shanklin, 5 Palmerston Road, Shanklin, 2 Albion Road, Sandown, and 5 Station Road, Sandown. Then there are current skips at the Co-op store, 63 to 67 High Street, Sandown, 8 Hill Street, Sandown, and 9 Pier Road, Sandown, and current hoardings at Premier Inn, 1 to 9 Esplanade, Sandown, and the junction of St Boniface Road and Arthur's Hill, Shanklin. Now the Ventnor area. There are current scaffolds at the corner of Trinity Road and Madeira Road, Ventnor, 1 Boniface Road and into Trinity Road, Ventnor, and the Blenheim 9 High Street, Ventnor, and a current skip at Seascape, St Catherine's Road, Knighton. Now, the West Wight area, there are a current scaffold at the Old School, Fine Lane, Shorewell, and current hoarding, skip and building materials at the end of Withyfields cul-de-sac in Shalfleet. Now, there are vehicle crossings under construction at these places: 51 Nelson Road, Newport, Holiday Cottage, Appleford Lane, Whitwell, New Wolverton Farm, Doctors Lane, Shorewell, 14 Paddock Close, God's Hill, 2 Fir Tree Close, Shanklin, 6 New Road, Brading, 18 Moorview, God's Hill, 10 Meaders Road, Ryde, Carrisbrook College entrance, Mountbatten Drive, Newport, 53 Wyatt's Lane, Northwood, 24 St Michael's Avenue, Ryde, and 25 Ratcliffe Avenue, Ryde.